Okay, I think we should start.
Okay.
Hello everyone and welcome to our first episode of Sunday Talks. Katlego Tsebe and I'm the chairperson of this student society. We are happy to have Miss Lethu with us today, a seasoned data scientist sharing her insights. Lethu, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Before we get started, please keep your mics muted unless you are asked to speak. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand or drop it in the chat box. Without wasting any more time, Ms. Lethu, please take the stage and kick off our conversation.
Okay. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, and good afternoon to everyone. And as Katlego has said, my name is Lethukuthula Samantha Shabalala, and I am currently a data science intern. And I decided to take part in the Sunday talks mostly because I was once in a lot of people's shoes where I asked myself, yes, there's something called tech, but what is tech? What are the careers that are in there in tech? And so for me, there was nobody to guide me. There was nobody to hold my hand and say, oh, by the way, this is data science. This is what a data science does. Data scientist does. This is software development. I just thought careers in tech is software development and it ends there. So I wanted to take this opportunity to be that mentor to each and every one of you to say, if you've ever found yourself having an interest in the field of data science, if you've ever found yourself saying, what is this data they keep on talking about? And what am I going to be doing in this field? Then you're definitely in the right session. Some of you might already have an interest. Some of you might be asking yourself, I just want to know what it is. And maybe the interest will be sparked from the conversation. And so we welcome each and every one that is here. We want to be able to bridge that gap to everyone that is here and say, I will hold your hand as one of the GKSS mentors. I will hold your hand and we will guide you through this journey. So I will take you through the different careers that are in there in data. I will be presenting a slideshow which will make it much more easier to follow through as I speak in the conversation. So I will now share my slideshow. And before I even start, if there's anyone who has a question, you can please raise your hand before we start with the presentation. And if there's no one with the question, we will continue with the slideshow. And I will cut out my screen, so I will not be sharing my face, but I will be sharing the slideshow. But throughout the conversation, my mic will be on. If anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand. Even if I'm on slide 1, feel free to just raise your hand and say, can I please ask something before we move on to the next slide? Thank you. Sorry guys, please give us just 5 minutes. As I share my screen, I'm having a bit of internet connection issues. So I'm so sorry. And I just noticed my manager is part of this meeting. So the pressure is on.
Hi everyone. Can you guys see my screen there?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'll present from my side, and then Mrs. Lethu will just present.
Thank you for that. So we will start with the talk, and this is called Redefining Tech, Everything Data. So I will first start with an introduction of myself. Who is Lethu? I'm pretty sure you're wondering who I am, where did I start, and how did I end up in the field of data? So Lethukuthula is just a young girl. She's just a young girl who had a dream, who had a passion for numbers, who had a passion for math since the young ages of grade 8. So I found myself always being intrigued in what is X and Y. You know, even when I was in high school, I'd ask myself, what are people in like grade 12 learning? I wasn't interested in what they were teaching me in grade 8. I felt like I want to know more into this field. And so I had a passion and a love for numbers, and I wanted a career that will mix my passion for problem solving and my passion for numbers. And that's when I started researching from a very young age. How do I get into a field where I deal with numbers? I had no idea where will I end up, but I wanted a field where I will be working with numbers. So that is where the passion started for me. And from there I went to varsity and I just told them I want to pursue anything with numbers. They were like, "Ma'am, you need to know what degree you want." And I said, "I just want numbers." They looked around and they told me, "You can do maths and statistics." And I did maths and statistics. And from there, when I started doing maths and statistics, my passion was even more now I had because now I had an interest, but I was also seeing I had an interest and I was also seeing what is this passion that I've been having. And now it was combining two worlds because now I had a module where I started coding and I asked myself, since there's coding, how does this get into the field? Because I told them I wanted numbers, but because I still had a passion for problem solving and the two combined, I really felt like I belong here. I felt like this is what I want to do in the long run. And so, sorry with the screen. Charles, please reshare the screen. And so I'll continue speaking since I'm just doing the introduction. I haven't went into the slides, but from there, sadly, I couldn't complete my studies in university. But because I believe in redirection, I believe in always chasing the dream, and always saying to myself, yes, this did not work out, but how do I make sure I still end up in the field that I've always wanted to be in? I believe in that I have a fighting spirit, and that's what I use to push through and push forward. And so that's when I pursued software development. And I wasn't really in the field of numbers, but as I said, I've always had a passion for problem solving. And each and every day, having to do different types of languages, having to learn the different type of languages, I was now interested in saying, oh, I didn't even know this existed, And from there, I went into an elective called data engineering. And I'm a firm believer in God. And I looked at God and I said, look at God redirecting me into what I've always wanted to do. And so I really fell in love when I did data engineering. Every single day, I woke up with a smile on my face because I went to design pipelines. I will explain further what a data engineer does, but the course really made me search more, even than what I thought I knew. And from there, that's where I can say my journey started from there, because I was absorbed by a company where they were looking for a data science intern, and I found myself being absorbed by the company. And from there, I literally wake up each and every day and I smile and I say, I really love what I do. And so when you see yourself in tech, more than anything, find your passion. Find something that you're passionate about, something that will make you want to wake up in the morning, something that will make you, if it's 12 o'clock and there's an error in your code, it's not going to be dreading, but you're looking forward to solving it. There's different fields in tech. You do not have to go into data. You do not have to go into software development if you feel like this is not for you, so find what works for you more than anything. So that's a brief introduction of who I am. If anybody would like to know more or would like to connect with me, feel free to do that. And I will share my socials at the end. And if you want to ask more questions, I am keen to answering any question that you have in regards to the field of data. And so I'm pretty sure you're asking yourself, okay, what is data? Why is she talking about this data thing? What is it doing? And so my understanding of data, with the little months that I've had into my internship, I've had an exposure of how much impact it has in a company. So I will generalize my explanation and say, data is what we interact with each and every day. That's what I understand by data. You clicking on your Spotify, that is you feeding your Spotify data and saying, I have an interest into this particular genre of music. And so it'll continuously recommend music that is made for you based on the data that's being collected by your Spotify. Data in its simplest form is the raw facts and figures. That's what it is. But data becomes more powerful. It becomes more powerful in terms of businesses and organizations. There are different types of data that we deal with on a daily. We have structured data, we have unstructured data. So structured is more of data that's in a form of spreadsheets, more of files. And then we have unstructured data where it is mostly taken from sources like the media. A picture can generate data as much as it's just a single form of image, but it can have meaning behind it. It can have data behind it. Then we have semi-structured data. I am pretty sure since most of the people that are here in this call are familiar with JSON files. So that is semi-structured because it has a sort of basis of being structured, but at the same time, it's a bit unstructured. So it falls under semi-structured. So my understanding is that data is everywhere. We interact with data every single time. We'll go to Google and you search something, when you scroll on social media, when you check your banking app, when you walk, when you take a picture with your small camera, data is literally everywhere. And data is being collected each and every time you interact, especially with a form of device. Every time you interact with your device, that is you giving data into your device. So we use data mostly. We use it mostly to gain insights. We use it to make decisions, So you're probably wondering, okay, now I know what is data. but how does this data affect me? What does it matter to me? What does it do for me? What is its benefit for me and in my life? And my understanding is that what data does for us on a daily is that data is in each and every sector that we interact with, right? So the importance of data is that it is the heart of what we do each and every day. As I said, from your Netflix recommendations, you're binge watching your favorite shows, that is data being collected. To your bank detecting that there's fraud activities, we all know F&B has this thing of if you swipe in an unfamiliar place, if you swipe more than you used to, they will literally sometimes block your card. That is them collecting data and saying, this is how much this person spends on a daily. They analyze the trend of how much you spend. They analyze how much you use in a particular month, in a particular year, and they have values. What I'll give them names and say they have a range of how much this person normally spends. And so when there's abnormal activities in your account, those are triggered because they've studied your data, they've studied that this person's behavior is in this certain way. And so when you start doing things outside of what you normally do, they detect it and they see. So you see how important and how sensitive data can be in our everyday life. We use data we live in a world where decisions are made by data. Companies mostly use data to make data-driven decisions to better the company. So with the little months that I've also been working, I've had exposure to be able to know that data does drive the success of a business, whether you're in the business sector, whether you're in the financial sector, in the healthcare sector, mining sector, whichever sector that you are in, companies use the particular data that they're dealing with. So let's say, for example, we are in a financial sector and we want to know if we are making profits in our business or we are losing money. So we are going to study how much has our business been behaving, how much have we been making in our business. And when we already have that data given to us of how much we've been making, then we start designing patterns, we start designing data models that will tell us, are we doing good in the business or are we doing bad? A great example is you can design a bar graph, just a simple bar graph, to see how much the business has been making each month. And you can see and highlight that, for June, we've actually made a loss. Then you can start digging deeper. So basically, sometimes you become an investigator, you become a detective in terms of why is this happening? You start asking yourself such things. You start looking beyond what you've been given. So in this industry, more than anything, you need to be able to look beyond what you've been given. You need to be able to write down what you've been given, the problem statement, to say, okay, so we are in the financial sector and we want to know if we've been making profits. But look beyond that. Sit yourself down and say, okay, how do I go about solving this problem? What more inputs into us not having a profit? You can start looking at things like, maybe we're giving out too many loans and people are not paying them back. That's you looking beyond the scope of what you've been given. So data is literally used in each and every sector. It is used in healthcare. So what I said is, I've already said that when you search, the basic example of your search engine, that's you feeding data into your computer, if I'm making sense. That's you saying to your computer, oh, hi, I'd like to know how to cook pap. And tomorrow it's going to start recommending familiar search history because of what you've searched yesterday. So data is literally you feeding information every single day, every single time. What I understand also by data is that it helps us make life easier. It helps us make more good business decisions. It helps us in the healthcare sector. It helps us in education. There's different sectors that you can position yourself in if you'd like to have a career in data. So I haven't really went into data science, but I'm just generalizing data as a whole. So if you'd like to see yourself being positioned, I've never seen myself working for a mining company, for example. And that's how vast data can be, because it's not based on, because when I was still in varsity, I always used to think, oh, I'm going to be working with financial sector. I've always put data into financial sector. I do not know why. And then I got exposure to see that, oh, it is more than what I've actually thought. It's more than what I actually know. You find companies, your favorite cars, BMW or Mercedes, they use trends to see that this particular car, is it making us profit? Are we getting sales on it or not? It goes beyond even the car in general. It can go to how the car functions. We can go to the health sector and find out that, oh, how are our patients responding to a particular medication? That's you measuring. It's you creating dashboards, you creating visualizations and telling a story to somebody who has no idea what this field is, somebody who has no idea. They just want to know, is this good for the business or not? You need to be able to take raw data and interpret it. And so these are examples. And as we're about to scroll, we are just showing examples of places that utilize data. So when we're done with this presentation, you can look into the different, maybe you might find yourself that you've always wanted to work in an industry where in an industry where you work with investigators, where you work in fields where you work in fraud detection. So I am going to be showing you different examples, and as we follow through, as we go through, you might find something that sparks an interest in you. So as I was saying, that data, literally, you are given a task to take something as simple as CSV files, for example, and take that to drive a business decision. So you see how important you are in this field, how important you are to a company that you will be working with. So it goes beyond just what we know, what I knew. Let me put it like that. It goes beyond that, because I was shocked more than anything when I started searching what impact does data have. So as I said, that with my journey, I didn't really know the different careers that are in there. I did not have an idea, what can I do in tech? All I knew is I wanted to work with numbers. And when I was introduced to software development, I found my ground. I found that I love this. I love problem solving. I love doing what I do. But I also want to merge the two with my passion and my love for numbers. And so that's where we'll be exploring the different careers that are in there in the data space. So we have number one. Number one, we have data analysts. So look at data analysts as somebody who works for extracting insights and visualizing them. So remember when I was speaking about being given a problem statement and sitting down with it, that is you analyzing the data that you've been given, that simple CSV file, that is you sitting down with it and analyzing it and saying, okay, how do I work to give the company what they need? How do I work towards the success of the business? But you don't really go as far as that. Your job is to analyze, be able to solve the problems that the company is facing, and give that data to the next party, the next people that will be dealing with this problem. So number two into this will be a data scientist. So you might find yourself that you've said I wanted to work in data, but you do not know what exactly you'll be doing. So my role, sorry about that. My role is a data science intern, and what I understand by what a data scientist does is you are given tasks to predict the future of the business, not really the future, but how the business is doing, how the product is doing. You are given very similar to a data analyst, but you work more with machine learning models. Can I please? I'm seeing it's not sharing anymore. Sorry about that, guys. We are really having internet issues. This is our first talk, so we will also be taking data from this and knowing what to better next time, what to do next time. So we are extracting data from this meeting, and we will be able to drive future insights for this tech talk conversation and say, okay, so we had problem with networks. So next time, maybe let's not host it at home. Let's try and hosting it in a library. So sorry for the internet issues. And I will continue with the careers. So we will also be trying to fix the slideshow for you guys. And also, I would like us to also be able to share the slides with everyone in the meeting. So if you want to still go through the slides and still do your own research on the side, feel free. We will share the slides with everyone to be able to do more research at home, because I believe that I may have put things together, but it's a summary of everything. You can still go back at home and research more on everything that we are talking about in this meeting. So the next career that I'll be speaking about is a business intelligence analyst. And funny enough, I never thought business analysts use data. I don't know why, but in my head, I just thought, yeah, they just look at the business and that's it. But how do they look at the business? How do they judge what's going on in the business? They look at data. So they bridge business and tech, basically, because when you are dealing in a data science or a data analyst field, you are more into the tech side of everything. But business analysts need to merge the two. Sorry. Business analysts need to merge the two. They need to merge the tech space, and they need to merge the business side of things and be able to report the different KPIs on that and say what exactly is happening on the business side and the tech side of the business. So there's different careers that we can look at. So in the slideshow, I put a data governance specialist. So in data, something that I didn't know, my manager mentioned it to me, and I went back and I sat down and I researched on it, was data governance. So data governance is a very serious field and a very serious thing in terms of companies. Companies deal with sensitive information. They deal with sensitive data. They deal with clients' data. You would not like for your banking app, be it Capitec, FNB, whatever that you use, to take out your data, take it out there for people to be able to see. So that's where data governance comes in. How are we keeping how are we keeping you safe? How are we making sure? How are we keeping you safe? How are we making sure that the data that we are dealing with is safe? And that's basically what the specialist ensures. They ensure that the compliance is there, the security is there, and that there's ethical usage of the data. It is not being breached or being given to third parties, because data can destroy a company. You know, if your competitor is able to access the company's data, that is very fragile for the business. So that's where as a data governance specialist comes in. Then we have data engineers, which is sort of what I did. I wasn't being a data engineer, but I was learning how to become a data engineer. And I got exposed. I got out of my comfort zone. I got exposed. Please go back 2 slides, the career slide, please. I got exposed to what a data engineer does. So data engineering, you basically build pipelines. You work on the raw data and you build pipelines. It's called ETL pipelines. So you work on extraction of the data, loading the data, and transforming it. So you work mostly with building and managing data pipelines and the data infrastructure in the business. So there's more careers in data. I just summed up a few so that you have an idea of what exactly can I get myself into when I work in data. So now we're going to look at what I do, which is a data scientist, a data science intern. We're going to be looking at what I do on a daily, not really, but what I do and the tools I work with, and how can you position yourself to a similar role, a similar position, right? So what a data science does basically is, one, you work with a lot of data. You work with very unclean data. You need to be able to look at the problem statement you've been given. So we'll still look at the banking sector and say, are we are we making enough, are we generating enough profits in the company, right? But you're given data that has to do with a lot of things, a lot of columns, it's so messy that you need to be able to clean it. You need to be able to take it down to 2 to 3 columns. Let's say you have 1,000 tables that you have in your database. You need to be able to know, this is where I need to look. This is where it'll tell me if we are generating profits in the business. Sometimes you find that there's things that are not even related to what you need to be looking at. So you remove that. And that is where data cleaning comes in. And I don't like it. I do not like it. I still want somebody who will tell me that that's their favorite part, but it's not my favorite. And this is why I put this sticker here, because every single day I'm just running away from cleaning data. I want nothing to do with it. But at the same time, I love it. I love seeing the end product. I love saying, oh, I took this from this and I made it into this small table. I took a messy database, a messy table, messy, very messy. And sometimes you have CSV files. Sometimes you have Excel files. Sometimes you need to merge the two. You need to remove certain delimiters like punctuations. So it's you just making sure that the data you bring to analyzing and you bring into platforms like Power BI is clean. It has no problem. You need to clean empty spaces. You need to clean duplicated rows, duplicated columns, so that is you going into the investigation part and saying, I'm being an investigator and I want everything that will make my data not to have in as much stand on it. So you want everything that has to do with your data coming out as good as possible, if I could put it like that. The word is running away. You want good quality, yes. You want quality data at the end. And that's where data cleaning comes in. And so before you clean, you need to collect the data before that. So I did talk about problem statement. You collect it from different sources. So we have different sources like Excel files, CSV files, online servers, databases that the company could be working with. You could be collecting the data from Google. You could be searching what is the price of cold drinks, and you're given a table with price of cold drinks, you take that data from Google and it's updated every single time based on the price change of cold drinks. So that's where data collection comes in. You need to know what source to look at given the problem statement that you have. And then data cleaning comes in the part that I don't like. And from there, you go into data analysis and exploring the data. You analyze, what am I working with here? How do I make sure that I answer the questions that I've been given? What visuals should I have in my data to answer the questions that I've been asked? So you work with tools that work in data visualization tools, and you must be able to tell a story from the simple CSV file or Excel file that you've been given. You need to be able to tell a story to somebody who has no experience in data science, to say to them, given this dashboard that I've created, we are making this much sales in the company, we are making this much profit into our bank, we are losing this much, we have this much fraud going on, this is what effect it has in our business. So it's you simplifying things, because we can't sit and analyze CSV files. So you can't look at a file and say, oh, based on this file, I think we are in a loss in the business, or based on this file, we have this amount of fraud cases. You need to be able to take that file and do a measure as simple as calculating how many, just the count, how many fraud cases do we have in our business. And then from that, you need to be able to generate a visual, an image. So it's like you are being an artist. It's you being an artist. I have a passion and I love this field because I am an artist. I draw in my spare time. And so being able to give somebody a final product that might take the business into another level really speaks volumes. And so that's what you'll be working with. And then there's deployment, and where deployment comes in, someone's speaker is not muted. So deployment comes in, I'm pretty sure, since most of us here have been exposed to the dev side of things, we've been exposed to what deployment is. So you build a product and you need to be able to publish it, deploy it to an online system. Like, for example, in a development setting, I've worked with GitLab, where I develop a product and I deploy it and test it, run pipelines on it to check if it's fully functional, and put it into Docker containers to be able to store it, and in a development setting, in a development production. And that's where deployment comes in. So what I love about this job is that being a data scientist, you're an all-rounder. As much as you're in the math side of things, you're still exposed to a bit of software development. And I will speak about that towards the end of the presentation, but you still have exposure and a bit of your skills and experiences that you've taken from a dev setting. You do bring them into a data science role. And so those are some. And then when it comes to prerequisites for a data science, so I believe that our journeys are different. I believe that something I did might not work for somebody else, and something somebody else did might not work for person C. So my journey into data science might be different from somebody else, but the skill set that we need might be the same. So you need to have a background in basically computer science, programming, whether you're doing programming, computer science, informatics. You need to have an experience in this field to be able to solve problems, because computer science gives you an exposure into a development setting. It gives you exposure into being a dev. And that's the exposure that a little exposure that I had in being a dev. I was doing software development and I had exposure into being a dev. And I believe that that exposure worked for me because I am able to apply certain principles and certain languages that I've learned in my programming background. And another field module or field that I had exposure to was statistics. And I believe that statistics is the statistics is you measuring the probability of things. Statistics deals with analyzing, visualization, collecting data. It works with data, but not in a setting of data science per se, because some of the things I learned in stats, I do apply them, but some of the things are new to me. I've never had exposure to them. So stuff like calculating mean, you'll need that. That is very important. Calculating the value that appears the most, dealing with your standard deviation, dealing with statistical analysis. You need that background. But also, if you found yourself in a development setting and you've never had exposure to statistics, there's platforms where you can enroll in courses that provide statistics. Always make sure that you align yourself with the career that you want to have at the end. Always make sure that you go above and beyond what you are being offered. So if you're just doing informatics maybe and another module of physics, a double major, and you feel like I should have chosen stats because I have an interest in this, then more than anything, do not be scared because you learn as you go. And I always say this, always make yourself believe that you are chasing an end goal. Always align yourself with the end goal that you are chasing. If you are chasing being a tester, a software tester, align yourself with that. Work on that. So work on programming languages that align you with the field you want to be in. So right now, as we were speaking about data science, align yourself with programming languages that are in the field. I've worked with Python in my software development background, and I searched, what else do I need to know? I did the basics of Python. It wasn't Python in a data science setting, but I made sure that I go above and beyond what I am being offered. And in my spare time, if I can, I did not know that I will end up working in this field because the school I went to, they place you anyway. They can place you as a dev. They can place you as a tester. They can anyway. So I've just always had a belief in myself, and I don't know if it's being delusional, but let's call it delusional. And I've always said to myself, I will always make sure that I align myself and I push as much as I can towards what I want to be at the end. And had I been given a setting where I had to be a dev, I would have taken it with both hands, embraced it, worked as hard as I can in the development setting, but made sure that as I'm there, I still work on aligning myself. If the company said we wanted somebody to be a data analyst, that's the opportunity. That's where your skill set, you start showing. I've been working on projects. I've been participating in hackathons, and I've been working in going out beyond and above what I work as. So one thing about being in the tech space is that that's what you need to do. So let's go back to the roadmap of a data scientist. So as I've already said, you need stats. So you need mathematics. But if you don't have that right now, make sure you start working on that right now. You need programming languages like Python and R. If you do not have that, work on that, please, because you don't want to see yourself at the end and you say, I should have. We don't work with should haves here. If you're under me and I am your mentor, we don't do should haves, and I believe that with us working with Unisa, we are going to make sure that nobody comes out and says, I should have. We want you to be able to set out goals for yourself and be able to pursue them, because it's one thing to set them out and it's another thing to chase them and actually do them. So be that person from today. Be that person. Please work on the person you want to be 5 years from now or 2 years from now. Work on that. And number 3 is data visualization. So as I have already mentioned, we work with tools to visualize data, to put data into graphs, charts for better understanding, because they tell a better story than just lines of code, lines of data. They tell a better story to somebody who has no idea what we are talking about. Most people know what a pie chart is. If my pie chart, I have A as 50%, we know A has more contribution and the others are distributed between the other 50%. We know that, oh, so A has more contribution into my data set. So it's easier to communicate with graphs and visualizations to tell a story to somebody who has no idea what data science, a data scientist is, or tech is. And then we have machine learning, which is the part that I still will be going through. So I've been doing a course on LinkedIn Learning on machine learning, because I know in the far end I will be needed to work with algorithms in machine learning to be able to better design data science models or AI models, So as I said, align yourself. This is me aligning myself. I didn't have exposure to it in varsity, did not have exposure to it in my previous school, but I am making sure that I align myself so that when it comes, I am not shocked and I'm like, oh, what's this? So always make sure you are that person. So from here, we are going to move into what my life looks like. A day in a life of a data science intern in the mining sector. So I'm pretty sure people are like, how is mining and data, how does it work? How do the two come hand in hand? And pretty much that's the question that I asked myself when I joined the sector. And more than anything, I want to say that it opened my eyes to more than what I know. It opened my eyes to say, oh, there's more to this field than what So basically, the first thing I do is, I think most of us as devs will be going through this cycle where you need to have meetings, be it with your mentor, with your team. You need to have meetings where you discuss what the problem statement is. You need to be given a task to do, and some companies work in sprints, some companies work in months and say, we want you to be able to do this in this particular month. And so I am given a task and I need to research on that task. I need to understand, how does mining and data come hand in hand? I remember in my first week, I don't know how much research I did. I can't even remember, because I wanted to position myself in the field. Yes, I now have the skill set to be a developer, but how do I position myself in a mining sector? And so that's when I enrolled in trainings. Luckily, my company provided most of the training, and be able to search more, go to LinkedIn Learning, search more, search on YouTube, So a day in my life, literally, it's me setting up my day and saying, this is what I'll be doing. And on a Monday, it's me doing research the whole day. I spend most of my time on a Monday researching. Given the problem statement that I was given, how do I go about solving it? I know nothing about tracks. I know nothing about the things that are in there, the machines that are in there, but that's where research comes in. I now need to start researching, what is this? How does it work? how does it have an impact in the business? And so that's what mostly I do. I work with Python, a programming language. I work with Python. I work with SQL, and I work with Power BI, being able to give insights, as I said in the beginning, that you need to be able to take a problem and put it into the simplest form that somebody who does not have an experience into this can read and understand it, or somebody else in your team can read and understand it and be able to say, oh, we are doing this good or we are doing this bad in the company. So I think our cycles as devs, they don't really change, but they change according to the field you're in. You just need to adapt to the field that you've been put in and make sure that you're always upskilling yourself as much as you can. So that's a short version of what a day in my life looks like. And nextly, we are going to talk about the future of data. So we are going into a more automative where AI is coming in, and you want to always, I'm going to say this, I think 1,000 times, you want to see yourself in a position where you are not left behind. You want to see yourself where, yes, you are a data scientist. Yes, you work on analyzing data. You work on developing dashboards. You work on making sure everything is put into a model that is good for the business and is able to give back business insights. But how do you position yourself so that you are able to work hand in hand with what we know is going on right now, AI? So I believe that I stand to be corrected, but I believe that we are mostly leaving behind static reports in the data science field. We are working more into interactive systems that a user can be able to interact with and be able to change, things into a better way, because dashboards can also be a bit hard to understand. But when something is in an app format or something is in a computerized format, it's much, much more easier to work in that. Think about chatbots that understand natural language, so that is the future that we are working towards in. It's building models that are able to understand natural language when we are giving natural language to it. So please look more into how do you position yourself so that you become a well-equipped data scientist and well-equipped for the future that we are going into. So as devs, we must think like scientists. Scientists must think like product designers. So data is a real-time, cloud-based and automated tool. So think above and beyond what you know. So what I will be leaving everyone with is that build yourself, start making small steps towards what you want to become. As I said, learn the basics of Python, learn the basics of SQL, learn Excel, and give yourself time frames. Give yourself that I will be working on. It doesn't need to be big projects. We all start somewhere. I also came into the development setting and I was introduced to a module called informatics. I had no idea what is going on. I felt like I'm a 1-year-old who is given this thing where I don't even understand what is going on. But you don't want to be stuck in that mindset of what is going on for too long. You want to put yourself in a mindset of saying, okay, now I know I don't understand what's going on. How do I work on understanding what's going on? That might sound weird, but think about it. And pick a path. Pick where you want to go. And you don't need to know where you want to go on the spot. And how you pick a path. I exposed myself to a testing development. I exposed myself to a dev role. I exposed myself to front end. I used to go to hackathons and do their front end, the entire front end. And I exposed to back end development. So I was trying to understand, yes, I love math, but is there something else that fuels my passion and fire more than um, math, you know? And that's when I started exploring more than what I'm being given at school. At school, you're given projects, you need deadlines, you need to finish them. But in your spare time, work on the different fields in tech to see where you are really passionate about. Do not be shy to explore. Do not be shy to position yourself in settings you've never been in. My first hackathon, I've never um, developed an entire product for front end, but I was learning front end. And my team said, we need a front end developer. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And I said, I'll do it because I've been learning this skill. And I think it's time for me to apply and see really how has it been going, you know, and you never really know until you try. So being in the tech space, you need to be able to go above and beyond what you know. You need to be able to put yourself in settings that are scary. Go to those hackathons, please, because they really do build on the person you are. And go to those tech events, interact, you know, find communities in the tech space because sometimes it's really hard to navigate the space alone. Sometimes you get stuck on a problem and you find that the next person who you could have asked would have been able to help you with it. So build a community where you are able to make it peer to peer. You're able to make it so easy to interact with one another. You know, as a person, I believe that you don't know everything. I might wake up tomorrow and there's something new, and I also don't know everything. You know, I know very little. That's what I believe in. But I believe that my journey has shaped me so that I can be able to transfer the little that I know to somebody else, and I can be able to gain the little that somebody else knows and transfer it to myself. So we learn from one another. So don't be scared to ask for help when you feel stuck. And practice with projects, as I've said. Start small. You don't need to start with a big project. Start small because sometimes you'll build that big project and you might find it to be very hard and draining because this is your first. So start small and work on building that bigger project at the end. Then from there, as I said, network. Please network and make sure that you're LinkedIn because yes, build on your portfolio, work on your portfolio because we all want each and every person that's here to be employable, but also work on networking, work on your LinkedIn. Make sure that your LinkedIn is not just a went to high school here, went to varsity here, and that's it. Interact, engage with people on LinkedIn because being in the job market is hard. I don't want to lie. Being in the job market is hard and looking for a job is hard. But if you've built your brand and you build a certain level of brand that somebody can go into your LinkedIn and be able to engage and say, oh, I might call this person for an interview because I like how they've been working on so many projects. Put those projects there, you know, put them, like flood them every day, like be that person who's just flooding your LinkedIn. Events, if you go to events, flood your LinkedIn with events. Flood your GitLab, your GitHub with projects, you know, because you want to put yourself and position yourself in a very favorable manner when it comes to being employed. Yes, you might have the skill set, you might have everything that is needed for a person to be employed, but you always need to go the extra mile because if somebody got a job just by sending one application, that might not be it for you. So you always need to go the extra mile, you know, and making sure that you position yourself in a very favorable way when it comes to job hunting. And the last thing that I will say is stay curious, you know, always ask yourself, what can I learn next? Yes, I know this, but it's not enough. Always stay in a mindset to say, I want to take more LinkedIn courses. I want to learn more than what I know. Always be curious in the tech space because there's always something, there's always trends, there's always something new coming up. Sorry. In the data science space also, if you want to end up there, always make sure you're curious, always make sure you're searching what new technologies are being developed in the field, so that you are also like an investment in the company you're working for. You're able to adapt to the changes that are happening in the market in the field. So always stay curious and be consistent in your journey. Always remember, I think more than anything, when we get to varsity, we forget the why. We forget, why am I here? And sometimes we get clouded with, oh, I made it to varsity. But always remember the why. Always remember why you're here, why you're pushing so hard for yourself. If you need to cut off on your social life, do that, because at the end, it's going to pay off more than anything. You're going to look back at your journey and you're going to thank yourself for the decisions you made back then. It took me, I think, 7 years to be in this field. And I look back at my journey and I say, I needed to go through each and every single step that I went through to be the woman that I am today. So my journey would be different. Somebody can say it took me 3 years to be in the field that I want to be, but it all goes back to being consistent and staying true to what you want and working towards what you want. Despite the hurdles you come across, despite the financial constraint you might come across, always remember the bigger picture and the person you want to become. So I am going to leave you with those words. Align yourself, build yourself, and you're really going to thrive in this space. And thank you so much. And thank you for listening. Thank you for coming, and thank you for staying in the meeting. I will be taking questions, any question related to what the presentation was about. I am free to answer the questions. So, and thank you so much to the GKSS leaders for planning this out, because it wouldn't have been possible. And this is where communities come in again. It wouldn't have been possible without them. And thank you so, so much to the team and everyone who made this happen. Thank you. Arigato. Thank you.
Okay, since the chat box is not working, please use the Q&A box to ask question or just raise your hand. Okay, we have Lesego.
Okay.
Lesego, hello, you can unmute.
Hi, Lesego. Okay, we'll come back to Lesego. We can take another person for now, and maybe Lesego will come back to us, because I think maybe she might have network issues. I'm not sure. So we'll take, I'm seeing another hand. I think it's Ritabile.
Yes, Redefining is the name. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'll continue with my question. I have 2 questions, actually. Before I go into my questions, thank you, Lethu, for the presentation. And you said something quite profound in the beginning about redirection. And you think redirection is quite powerful. I agree with that. I may have a similar journey to yours. I've also been redirected quite a number of times. But it does weigh on you, and you find yourself questioning yourself. So my first question is going to be in regards to the interview stages. I'm looking at your profile and I see that you went to We Think Code, and I know that We Think Code actually places you at a company. But if you did have to go through the interview stages and, had to prove yourself, just if you can provide tips based on that. And question number two is just based on your journey. I see that you did statistics and mathematics, and it was not completed. I have a similar story to you. So how do you leverage that education that is not being completed? Thank you.
Okay. I'll start with your last question because then I'll end with the first question. So, when I did my studies, I was fully there. I was present, and every single information that I took from it, I still have books right now that if I feel like, okay, I forgot this certain concept, I still go back to those books because as much as I did not complete it, but I learned so much from the journey academically. So I learned so much in terms of statistics. And funny enough, even in the role that I'm in right now, I use some of the information when I need to go back into some math calculations that I feel like might help me with whatever that I'm dealing with, or the problem that I've been given. I go back to those books. So do not treat it like it's just something that happened and you move on. No, it's still an education, and it puts you here. It contributed to the person you are. I believe my studies contributed to the person I am today, because when it comes to problem solving, it taught me those skills. When it came to programming, I started learning programming from varsity. It taught me those skills. And it wasn't, we learned Python, but I didn't understand at first. So my curiosity to dig deeper into learning what Python is stemmed from there. So always look at it as it's a journey that I went through, and I learned so much from it, and I'm not taking it away from myself or from the journey that I am in right now. So always look back, always have those books if you still have them, have those group chats that you were part of in varsity, because you might still have questions that people that are in there are able to answer them. So leverage the fact that you went to varsity, Also, when it comes to my studies, I believe that in the long run, I will go back and complete my studies. So I always find myself trying to upskill and also remind myself of the things that I learned so that I don't forget some of the concepts that I learned. So always use it to your advantage. Don't just push it back. So I don't know if that answers you, or you'd like another response to it, but I think that's how I look at it. And in terms of interviews, please repeat the question, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll repeat the question. Yes, you did answer the second question. Thank you for that.
Okay.
The first question was just about, I know you went to We Think Code, and I understand that We Think Code is going to place you at a company. But I just wanted more information. If you have been to other interviews, for example, external interviews, how did you actually have to prove yourself, as somebody who did not really have the qualifications that are required per se in the industry? Comparing yourself to somebody who went to traditional university, graduated record time, when employers are looking at people from UCT, VETS, so on and so forth. They prefer those candidates. So how did you set yourself apart in the interview stages? Thanks.
Okay. So I believe that my journey at We Think Code really did help when it came to job placements or job hunting, let me put it like that, because I did look for other jobs outside of We Think Code, because their placement system works in a way where they can place a bunch or like maybe 20 people now, and still the rest of the cohort has not been placed yet. So I was looking for jobs on the side by myself, searching, and applying each and every day. So I used to give myself a minimum and say, I need to apply for 5 to 10 jobs in a day. And always, as I said, always position yourself to a point where if you get into an interview, they don't look at the fact that you don't have that qualification, but they look at the skill set that you've gained for yourself. If I make sense, be confident in yourself. Don't look, like I will always say this, don't look at the fact that you did not complete your studies as a way of saying, I don't deserve this. You deserve it as much as somebody who went to a university, or somebody who is going to be interviewed next. So position yourself and your skill set. Make sure you are very impressive. Work on yourself as a person. Work on doing above and beyond than just academics. So I believe in sharing my journey. I believe in helping somebody else do better. So I have a tech school in a way that teaches high school kids the basis of programming. That is me going above and beyond just academics, so that when you get into that interview, yes, you don't have the paper, but you are this person that they looked at and they became impressed. So always look at it in a positive aspect and say, the fact that I've been called in for this interview really means they see me as a potential candidate. Then work on your confidence. Like, confidence is key more than anything. But luckily, for me, Within did provide placements, not really placements, but they secure an interview for you. And you still need to go there and prove yourself. You have other candidates that are part of the program. And maybe they're looking for one person, or they're looking for two people, or they're looking. So it always goes back to positioning yourself and putting yourself out there, so that it becomes easier for you when it comes to interview seasons or job hunting. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, not completely, but thank you. I'll send you an invite on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, no problem. Do we still have more questions?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I have two questions as well.
Okay.
Okay, the first one has to do with maths. So I'm currently a student at Within Code at the moment, and yeah, in terms of maths, I'm not really a maths person, and I really wanted to venture out into the data field.
Mm-hmm.
So is that going to be a problem for me, or should I teach myself maths somehow? And the second question is, since Within Code is teaching us programming languages like Python, and currently we're doing Java, I decided to do those short courses with Microsoft for data. So I don't know if those would help me out in terms of getting a job in the end. Would that be an advantage?
Okay. So the first question is, sorry, can I answer your second question? I always remember the second question and not the first. So if you do have two questions, please ask the first one and then I answer it, and then you're going to ask the second one. So in terms of upskilling yourself on the side, that's even perfect. Being able to do courses that align to what you want to do at the end, that is more than perfect. So continue to work on that. Continue to. So I would suggest, I did a lot of LinkedIn learning courses and Data Camp Academy courses while I was still at Within Code. So I'd search roadmap to data science or roadmap to data analysts, and I'd get recommendations on what I can do. And I started with Python at first, and I worked on my Python skills, because Within Code does give you the skills, but you also need to work on the side, because the program is short compared to varsity. It's 18 months. And in the 18 months, you learn so many programming languages. And Python is only done in the first first few months of the course. So you can never really learn enough. So upskilling is always great, but upskill in terms of what you want to do, and make sure you search um, on YouTube also roadmap, or somebody who had a similar journey, how to become a data scientist. Because as I said, our journeys are different. So some people did certifications, paid certifications. So if you also want to do that, you can. If you feel like you want to upskill through LinkedIn Learning, that is also perfect, you know. So that's how I would advise you on that. And the first question was, we think code does a lot of programming languages. So please repeat the question. I forgot a part of it. Sorry.
The first question was with regards to maths.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I'm not a maths person, yeah.
Okay. So with you not having background in math or statistics, it would really be good, as you said, trying to upskill in respect to maths and statistics, because in the field of data you do need that. But also, some companies do allow you the platform to learn on the job, but you want to put yourself in a position where you already have a bit of background. So work on that right now. Search courses, math courses you can take part in, and try learning that. But also, Within Code has an elective called data engineering. And I firmly believe that if I didn't do that elective and I chose something else, then it would have been a bit harder for me to transition into the field, you know, because even when the companies look for people in data, they say we want people who did the elective of data engineering. So if I did something else, I would probably be recruited for a dev role in another company. If I did maybe mobile development, I would have ended up in a dev role. But also, um, make sure that when the elective season comes, you have done enough research on what you want to do, and you are sure that, okay, this is what I want. Then you pick an elective of data engineering, because it's there and it will always be there. I believe they will not remove it. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm answered. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have another question?
Any more questions before we wrap up?
I see Liso raised his or her hand, and they still did not get a chance to ask the question.
Lesego, I think Lesego was the one talking just now.
Yes, I had to rejoin the meeting again because there was a problem with my mic.
No problem.
Okay, I think Wonga also raised his hand. Wonga, you can ask your questions.
No, it was me. I was asking about certifications, but she answered it already, so I think I'm good.
Okay, since nobody has any other questions, can I just squeeze in one last question? I think it's for the benefit of everybody listening.
Okay.
Yes, just to go back to the question about the interviews. I think you touched on just the interview stage once you're in front of the panel. But
Okay.
I think the biggest barrier for me, or the biggest issue for me, was actually securing the interview. So getting past the ATS, the applicant tracking system, and actually getting in front of a human being. Just to give you a bit of background on myself, I am about to graduate actually, so I do have my qualification.
Okay.
So that's not an issue for me. BSc in informatics from Unisa. I did transfer or actually I did computer science, BSc computer science at the University of Pretoria. I did that for 1 year. I did computer science teaching assistant. I was a teaching assistant that side as well, just due to my performance. But then I had to switch to Unisa just due to personal reasons. But the issue I'm facing right now is just getting my foot in the door, actually getting in front of a human being. And I've revised my CV quite a lot of times, and I do get, interviews here and there, but not at the companies that are actually worth it. So I don't know if you can answer that question. If not, that's okay. If you don't have the answer, that's okay. But just breaking through the door, getting in front of a human being, just that first step. The first step, getting past the initial rejection. That's the issue that I'm facing right now. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. I think what I can say worked for me and might work for you, might not work for you. I don't know, because our journeys might be different. So with the other interviews that I had, there were external interviews, and with one of the companies, I applied online and I reached out on LinkedIn to the recruiter, and I told them I'm interested in this position and I applied for it. And well, what skill set are they looking at for the perfect candidate? And to my surprise, that they took that as she's actually really interested in us, and I got invited to an interview from that, and I got invited to an interview and then I had to do the assessments. I think I had 2 assessments before that and 3 interviews, if I'm not mistaken, with them. But just to get my foot on the door, I had to go above and beyond just applying on their website and sending through my CV. I had to go to the recruiter and just email them. And to me, to them, it shows a particular interest. It shows that, okay, this candidate really wants this, but it does not give you the job, if I could put it like that. It gives you a step to say, okay, let's see this person. Let's invite them in, and I've had conversations with people who are also in the field, and some did go through interviews like that, and at the end they got a rejection. So it's not always guaranteed that it'll be successful, but you can try always when you apply, always taking a step further and reaching out to the recruiters, even if they don't reply. But at the end of the day, there's nothing to lose, So I don't know if that might work for you, but you can try doing that when applying for interviews. And also I can share with you like a rough draft of my CV. I'll just blur out certain details of it and just send me a LinkedIn message, and maybe also the format of the CV. But I believe that with my external application, one of them, it literally had to be me reaching out. So yeah, does that answer you? And then after reaching out, it's all dependent on you, on how you do on the interview, on how you do on the on the assessments that you're going to be given. So I hope that answers you. And if there is someone in the room who thinks maybe there's advice they could give, please feel free to give out that advice if you think that might help.
Yes, Lethu. Thanks for that. Yeah, you did answer my question. Just based on the CV, I don't think it's the CV that's the issue, because I did get shortlisted for Amazon, and I reached the final stage for Amazon, but I just unfortunately just could not get past the final stage. I did get shortlisted for other companies as well, and I did receive 2 offers from those companies, but it was not in something that I wanted to do, which is actually software development. So my CV isn't really the issue. I'm just going to say this because this is let's just be open and honest here. I really do honestly believe that there are certain employers that have a negative bias towards students from Unisa. And wherever that bias comes from, it's affecting us on the ground as students, as graduates, and we're really having to fight twice as hard, 3 times as hard as other people just to get our foot in the door. That's what I think.
Okay. I hear you. But as I said, just if you can, like, have a start. If you can get into a job, maybe an internship for a year, just to gain the experience, just even if it's because this is what I told myself, and maybe it might be different for someone else. So when I didn't get placed immediately when everyone else was being placed, I told myself, even if I get a job somewhere else where it's not a sponsored company, it's okay. And the positions that I was applying in, the first one was a software, a support software, a support analyst. Yeah, something like that. I don't even remember the role because my heart wasn't there, but I said to myself, I wanted the experience, I wanted the exposure into the field. The second one was a dev role. And I said it's okay also, so I told myself that I haven't been placed into a company that I want or into the field that I want, but I will work towards that. And so in my I believed in that I will still work on the full year and I will still work on upskilling in the sector that I want to be in. And if the company, because I did ask in the interview that are you guys hiring for data are you guys hiring for data scientists or data analysts? And both of the companies said yes we are, but not currently. But if the roles ever come about, we will let you know and you can apply internally into the company. So I had told myself that even if I become a support analyst, it's okay. As long as I get placed and I get a job for the year, I will work towards the career that I want. Even if it takes me 2 more years, I said it's okay. But as I said, we are different. My approach might not work for somebody else. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.